Hyunwoo Kim straightened his dark blue uniform as he walked through the massive doors of the Galaxy Council chamber. The room was huge, bigger than any stadium on Earth. Thousands of seats filled the curved walls, each one holding a different alien species. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living crystal. A few were just clouds of gas floating in special containers. Today was the day Earth would learn its fate. Hyunwoo had spent 5 years working toward this moment. He had traveled to dozens of alien worlds, shaking hands with creatures that had no hands, learning languages that had no words, all to convince the galaxy that humans deserved a place at this table. Behind him walked Dayun Park, Earth's top scientist. She carried a small tablet that held all their research data, trade proposals, and peace treaties. Her black hair was pulled back in a neat bun and her face showed no emotion. She had warned Hyunwoo that this vote might not go their way. The third member of their team was Captain Jamin Lee. He commanded the Earth ship that had brought them here. Unlike the other two, he wore a military uniform. His job was to make sure they got home safely, no matter what happened in this room. The Galaxy Council chamber was ancient. It had been built over 1,000 years ago, back when humans were still figuring out how to make fire properly. The walls were covered in symbols from every member species. Earth's symbol was notably absent. Representatives of Earth, called a voice that sounded like wind through metal tubes. Please take your positions. The 3 humans walked to a small platform in the center of the room. All around them, alien eyes watched their every move. Some of these creatures were friends. Many were not. Most simply did not care about the small blue planet called Earth. The being who had spoken was Veltar, the prime regent of the hegemony. He looked like a tall, thin tree with too many arms. His species had controlled the Galaxy Council for over 300 years. They were known for being careful, slow to make decisions, and very good at keeping peace. The matter before us today, Veltar continued, is the application of the species called humans for full membership in the Galaxy Council. This decision will affect all of us. Hyunwoo felt his heart beating faster. This was it. We have reviewed Earth's military history, said another voice. This one belonged to a creature that looked like a giant spider made of metal. Humans have fought 14,000 wars in the last 5,000 years. They have used weapons of mass destruction against their own species. They show patterns of aggression that concern us. Daun squeezed her tablet tighter. She had expected this argument. However, said a third voice, much friendlier, humans have also shown remarkable progress. They ended slavery. They stopped their global wars. They cleaned up their planet's environment. They have potential. This voice came from one of Earth's few supporters, Ambassador Kree of the Zentorian Trade Alliance. His people looked like dolphins but lived on land and loved making deals. The question, Veltar said, is whether humans can be trusted with the power that comes with council membership. They would gain access to advanced technology, space lanes, and knowledge that could be dangerous in the wrong hands. For the next 4 hours, species after species stood up to speak. The crystalline Altarians worried that humans were too emotional. The gas cloud Nebulans thought humans bred too fast and would overpopulate the galaxy. The machine race Cognites calculated that humans had a 67% chance of starting another galactic war within 50 years. But some spoke in favor of humanity. The Rannoch, who looked like friendly bears, talked about how humans had helped them during a natural disaster. The plant-like Verdans praised human creativity and art. A few smaller species saw humans as potential protectors against larger, more aggressive neighbors. Hyunwoo was allowed to speak once. He stood up straight and looked around the massive room. We know we are not perfect, he said, his voice carrying clearly in the chamber. We have made mistakes, big ones. But we have learned from them. We come here not as conquerors, but as students. We want to learn from you, to grow with you, to help build a better galaxy for everyone. His words were translated into hundreds of languages instantly. Some aliens nodded approval. Others remained still as statues. When the speeches ended, the voting began. Each species cast their vote electronically. The results appeared on a massive screen above the chamber in real time. The numbers climbed slowly. Against 100, 200, 300. In favor 50, 75, 89. Abstentions 100, 125, 135. Hyunwoo watched the numbers with growing horror. They were losing badly. Dayun put a gentle hand on his shoulder. It's okay, she whispered. We expected this. When the final vote appeared, the silence in the chamber was complete. 623 against, 89 in favor, 35 abstentions. Earth had been rejected, but worse was coming. Veltar stood up, his tree-like form swaying slightly. The Galaxy Council has reached its decision. Earth's application for membership is denied. Furthermore, due to security concerns, humanity is hereby restricted to their home solar system. Any attempt to expand beyond the Sol system will be considered an act of aggression. The words hit like a physical blow. Not only had they been rejected, they had been caged. Council warships will establish a quarantine perimeter around your system. Veltar continued. This is for the safety of all species. The decision is final. Hyunwoo felt 5 years of work crumble around him. All those diplomatic missions, all those friendships built, all those promises made, none of it mattered. But when he looked at Daeun, she was almost smiling. What? He whispered. They just made a very big mistake, she said quietly. Captain Jaemin stepped closer to them. We should leave now. As they walked out of the chamber, past hundreds of alien species who had just voted to imprison humanity, Daeun's tablet buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth. The message was simple. Phase 2 approved. Begin implementation immediately. While the Galaxy Council congratulated itself on containing the human threat, none of them noticed the small device Daeun had left behind, hidden under their platform. It would record everything said in the chamber for the next 6 months. They also didn't know that every human ship in space had just received new orders. They weren't going home to Earth. They were going dark, disappearing into the empty spaces between stars. The galaxy thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea they had just created a much bigger one. As their ship left the council station, Hyunwoo stared out at the stars. What happens now? Daeun finally allowed herself to smile fully. Now we show them what happens when you try to cage humanity. 6 months had passed since the Galaxy Council's vote, and something strange was happening. Earth had gone completely silent. Soo-Jin Choi stood in the command center of the Deep Space Research Station, hidden in the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The facility didn't appear on any official Earth records. To the outside galaxy, it didn't exist at all. Any word from the Council monitoring stations? She asked her assistant. Nothing, Director. They're getting nervous. No communications from Earth in 3 weeks. No ships trying to break the quarantine. They think we might be planning something. Soo-Jin smiled. We are planning something. Just not what they think. The truth was that Earth had been preparing for this rejection for 20 years. While diplomats like Hyunwoo worked publicly to gain acceptance, scientists like Soo-Jin had been working in secret to make sure humanity could survive without it. The Asteroid Research Station was just one of dozens of hidden facilities throughout the solar system. Each one was working on a different piece of what Earth's leaders called Project Phoenix, and the plan to rise from the ashes of galactic rejection, HFY. Me the latest reports from the other stations, Soo-Jin said. Holographic screens appeared in the air around her. Each one showed incredible progress. The lunar facility had cracked the secret of quantum-fold space travel. Unlike the galaxy's jump gates, which could be controlled and monitored, human ships would soon be able to appear anywhere in space without warning. The Mars colonies had finished building the first automated shipyards. Massive machines that could build warships without any human workers. They were slow, but they never stopped working. The stations near Jupiter were harvesting gas for a new type of fuel that burned hotter and longer than anything the galaxy had ever seen. But the most important work was happening right here, in Soo-Jin's facility. They were building something the galaxy thought was impossible. A computer network that could connect every human in space instantly, no matter how far apart they were. Director, called another voice. Taeho is here for the meeting. Taeho Yoon walked into the command center like he owned it. Tall and confident, he had spent the last 6 months building a secret network of humans throughout the galaxy. While Earth appeared to be quarantined, Taeho's people were everywhere. How many do we have now? Soo-Jin asked. Over 10,000, Taeho said proudly. Scientists, engineers, traders, even some military people. All of them in positions where they can help when the time comes. And the aliens suspect nothing? Why would they? We're just humans doing our jobs. Working in their factories, maintaining their ships, teaching their children. They see us as harmless workers, not as spies. Soo-Jin nodded. This was exactly what they had hoped for. When the galaxy quarantined Earth, they forgot about the thousands of humans already living and working on alien worlds. Those people had become humanity's secret weapon. What about supplies? She asked. Better than expected? Your people have taught us how to build the new technology, using materials we can find anywhere. We don't need Earth's factories anymore. We can build what we need right under their noses. This was the key to everything. The galaxy controlled trade, but they couldn't control knowledge. Human engineers were now capable of building advanced technology using basic materials found on any world. "Show her the latest toy," Tejo said to his assistant. A young woman stepped forward carrying what looked like an ordinary metal box. But when she pressed a button, the box unfolded into a complex device with screens and control panels. "Personal quantum communicator," the woman explained. "Completely undetectable by galaxy scanning equipment. Range unlimited. Each one can connect to our main network instantly." Sujin was impressed. "How many do we have?" 5,000 so far. Every human cell leader has one. We can coordinate across the entire galaxy in real time. Excellent. What about weapons? Tejo's expression grew serious. That's where we might have a problem. The galaxy's weapons technology is advanced, but it's old. They haven't had a real war in over 200 years. Their guns and ships are designed for show, not for fighting. That's not a problem, Sujin said. That's an opportunity. She led them to another section of the facility. Here, human engineers were working on devices that looked nothing like galaxy weapons. They were smaller, more efficient, and based on completely different principles. "We're not trying to build better versions of their weapons," Sujin explained. "We're building weapons they don't understand. When the time comes, they won't know how to defend against them." An alarm suddenly rang throughout the facility. Red lights flashed as everyone rushed to their stations. "What's happening?" Tejo demanded. "Galaxy patrol ships," someone called out. 3 of them heading toward Earth. Sujin pulled up the tactical display. 3 alien vessels were indeed approaching Earth's outer defenses. But something was wrong. "They're not military ships," she realized. "Those are science vessels." The lead ship was sending a message. Sujin had it translated immediately. "People of Earth," the message said. "We are researchers from the Altarian Science Council. We wish to study your quarantine effects on human psychology. Please respond." Sujin and Tejo looked at each other. This was either a genuine research mission or a spy operation. Either way, it was perfect for their purposes. "Send them a response," Sujin ordered. "Tell them Earth government is having internal discussions about the quarantine. We need time to organize a proper response." The message was sent. The alien ships moved into a parking orbit around Earth, waiting patiently for human officials to get their act together. What they didn't know was that Earth's government was working perfectly. Every human leader was in constant communication through the quantum network. Every decision was being made faster and more efficiently than ever before. The quarantine had forced humanity to become more organized, not less. "Perfect," Tejo said. "Now we can test our observation protocols on real galaxy ships." Within hours, hidden sensors throughout the solar system were scanning the alien vessels. Human technicians learned more about galaxy ship design in 1 day than they had in 5 years of diplomatic meetings. "Their shields are weaker than we thought," reported the lead engineer. "And their weapons. They're almost decorative, built for intimidation, not destruction." "What about their communications?" Sujin asked. "Completely unencrypted. We can hear everything they're saying." The aliens were indeed scientists, and they were worried. Their conversations revealed growing concern throughout the galaxy about humanity's silence. Some species thought humans might be planning revenge. Others worried they might hurt themselves in desperation. None of them suspected the truth. Over the following weeks, more ships arrived. Trade vessels hoping to restart commerce with Earth. Military scouts checking the quarantine barriers. Even tourist ships full of aliens curious about the mysterious humans. Each ship provided more intelligence. Each visitor gave humanity more insight into galaxy weaknesses. "They're not prepared for war," Tejo reported after analyzing data from 50 different ships. "They have the weapons, but they don't have the training. Most of their military officers have never seen real combat." "Good," Sujin said. "But remember, we're not planning to start a war. We're planning to end one before it begins." She pulled up a star map showing the entire galaxy. Red dots marked human cell locations. Blue dots showed galaxy military bases. Green dots indicated important trade routes. "Phase 2 is almost complete," she announced to her staff. "All our people are in position. All our technology is ready. All our targets are identified." "What's Phase 3? Someone asked. Sujin smiled the same way Da-Un had smiled 6 months ago. "Phase 3 is when we stop hiding." As if summoned by her words, alarms rang throughout the facility again, but this time the alerts were coming from deep space far beyond the solar system. "What is it?" Teho asked. "Unknown contacts," the scanner operator reported. "Massive energy signatures. They're not galaxy ships." Su-Jin felt a chill run down her spine. Something new was coming. Something the galaxy had never seen before. "Where?" "Andromeda Bridge sector." "Whatever it is, it's big, and it's heading toward inhabited systems." She realized that humanity's timeline had just changed. They had been planning to reveal themselves slowly, carefully. But if there was a new threat to the galaxy, everything would have to happen much faster. "Send word to all cells," she ordered. "Move to Phase 3 immediately, and get me a direct line to Earth Command." The galaxy thought they had humanity under control. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The first reports came from the outer rim colonies. Entire star systems were going dark, their signals simply stopping without warning or explanation. The Galaxy Council's emergency meeting was chaos. 17 systems in the Andromeda Bridge have gone silent, announced Prime Regent Veltar. His tree-like form shook with worry. "Our scout ships find nothing but empty space where planets used to be." Admiral In-Ho Kang watched the emergency broadcast from his hidden command ship, deep in the space between stars. Around him, the bridge crew of the Earth vessel Retribution prepared for their first real combat mission. "Sir," called his communications officer, "we're receiving reports from all our observation posts. The Council fleets are moving to investigate, but they're using standard formation patterns." In-Ho smiled grimly. After 18 months of watching Galaxy military exercises, he knew their tactics better than they did themselves. Predictable as always. "What about our ships?" "Phantom Fleet is ready, Admiral. 47 vessels in position throughout the affected sectors, all equipped with quantum fold drives and the new weapon systems." In-Ho nodded. The Phantom Fleet was humanity's secret weapon, built in the hidden shipyards of the asteroid belt. Each ship was designed using principles the galaxy had never seen. They were fast, invisible to most sensors, and armed with weapons that could tear through galaxy shields like paper. "And the pilots?" "Ghost Squadron is ready for deployment, sir." Mi Young-song checked her fighter systems one more time. Her ship was small, sleek, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever built. Where galaxy fighters were large and heavily armored, human fighters were tiny and impossibly fast. "All Ghost pilots, this is Lead," she transmitted to her squadron. "Remember, we're not just fighting for Earth today. We're showing the galaxy what they rejected." 24 voices confirmed they were ready. Each pilot had trained for this moment for over a year. They knew their ships, they knew their weapons, and they knew they were about to change galactic history. The enemy finally revealed itself near the Kepler research station. It wasn't an invasion force from another galaxy. It was something much worse. The Void Swarm had awakened. Ancient beyond measure, the swarm was a collection of machine intelligences that had been sleeping in dark space for millions of years. They consumed matter and energy to build more of themselves, turning entire solar systems into raw materials for their endless reproduction. "Council Fleet Gamma is engaging the enemy," reported the scanner operator aboard the Retribution. They're being destroyed." In-Ho watched the tactical display as galaxy warships threw everything they had at the swarm. Their weapons barely scratched the enemy's adaptive armor. Their shields couldn't stop the swarm's energy-draining weapons. In less than an hour, 23 galaxy ships were reduced to floating wreckage. "Sir," his tactical officer said, "Council Fleet Delta is requesting immediate assistance. They're requesting any available ships respond to the emergency." "Any available ships?" In-Ho repeated. "I think we qualify." For the first time in 2 years, human ships appeared on galaxy sensors. The Retribution and 6 other human vessels materialized in the middle of the battlefield using their quantum fold drives. The Council ships were so surprised by their sudden appearance that several actually stopped firing for a moment. "Council vessels, this is Admiral In-Ho Kang of the Earth Defense Force," he transmitted on all frequencies. "We're here to help." The response was immediate confusion. "Human ships, you are in violation of quarantine protocols," came a reply from the Council Fleet Commander. "Return to your system immediately." "I don't think so," In-Ho said calmly. "Ghost Squadron, you are clear to engage." Mi Young's fighters screamed past the Council ship so fast they couldn't track it. Her targeting computer locked onto the nearest swarm vessel. a massive construct that looked like a mechanical spider the size of a moon. Ghost leader to all units, target the power cores, just like we practiced. Human weapons were based on completely different principles than galaxy technology. Where the aliens used energy beams and explosive projectiles, humans had developed quantum disruptors that could break the bonds between atoms themselves. Mi Young's first shot hit the swarm vessel's center mass. Instead of bouncing off like the galaxy weapons had done, the quantum disruptor carved through the enemy's armor like it wasn't there. Secondary explosions rippled along the creature's length as its internal systems failed. "Direct hit," called one of her pilots. "The thing's coming apart." Within minutes, the Ghost Squadron had destroyed 3 swarm vessels that had been shrugging off galaxy attacks for hours. The Council ships could only watch in amazement. "How?" transmitted the Council fleet commander. "Our weapons barely scratched them." "Different approach," Inho replied. "We don't try to overpower their defenses. We ignore them entirely." The battle continued for another 2 hours. Human ships appeared and disappeared across the battlefield, striking at swarm vessels with precision and effectiveness that the galaxy had never seen. When a human ship took damage, it simply quantum folded away for repairs, returning minutes later fully functional. Dong-Hyun Lim, chief engineer aboard the Retribution, monitored the weapon's performance from his station. "Admiral, all systems operating at optimal efficiency. The quantum disruptors are performing exactly as designed. Casualty report? 0 human casualties, sir. 3 ships took minor damage but are already repaired." Meanwhile, the Council forces had lost over 60 ships and were barely holding their positions. When the last swarm vessel was destroyed, the battlefield fell silent except for the chatter of galaxy emergency frequencies. Council ships limped away from the combat zone, their crews trying to understand what they had just witnessed. "All Council vessels, this is Admiral Kang," Inho transmitted. "The immediate threat has been neutralized. We'll remain in the area to ensure no swarm remnants survived." "Admiral," came a hesitant reply. "On behalf of the Council Defense Force, we thank you for your assistance. But I have to ask, how did you get here?" "The quarantine barriers." What quarantine barriers?" Inho asked innocently. The truth was that human ships had been moving freely throughout the galaxy for months, completely undetected by Council monitoring systems. The quarantine had been an illusion from the beginning. "Human vessels," the Council commander tried again. "You need to return to your designated system." "The quarantine was never legally binding," interrupted a new voice on the communication channel. Hyun-Woo Kim appeared on the main display screen, speaking from what looked like an official government office. But the background wasn't from Earth, it was from the Council station itself. "Hyun-Woo?" Inho said, surprised. "Where are you?" "Council Station Central, Admiral. I've been here for the past 6 months, reviewing the legal framework of the quarantine order." "Fascinating reading," the Council commander sputtered. "That's impossible. No human ships have approached the station." "No human ships," Hyun-Woo agreed. "But humans have been living and working here the whole time, including several members of the legal department who helped write the quarantine order." It was true. When the Council had voted to quarantine Earth, they had forgotten about the humans already living throughout galaxy space. Those people had simply continued their jobs, including the ones who worked in the Council's own government. "The quarantine order," Hyun-Woo continued, specified that humans could not expand beyond the Sol system. It said nothing about human ships providing emergency assistance to Council vessels under attack. It also contained a loophole clause allowing suspended regulations during galactic emergency situations. "You're saying the quarantine is void?" the Council commander asked. "I'm saying it never applied to this situation. Human ships responding to distress calls are acting within established galactic law." Inho grinned. Earth's diplomats had been busy during the quarantine period. "Furthermore," Hyun-Woo continued, "I should inform the Council that humanity will be providing ongoing assistance in dealing with the swarm threat. We've already identified 17 additional incursion points that your forces haven't detected yet." The galaxy communication channels erupted in confused chatter. Species that had voted to quarantine humanity were now begging for human assistance. Military commanders who had called humans dangerous were asking for tactical advice. "Admiral," came a transmission from a species Inho didn't recognize. "My people need help. The swarm is moving toward our home system. Can you?" "We'll be there," Inho promised. Over the following days, human ships appeared throughout the galaxy wherever the swarm attacked. Each battle proved the same thing. Human weapons and tactics were devastatingly effective against an enemy that had easily defeated traditional galaxy forces. But humans didn't just fight and disappear. After each victory, human ships remained to help with rescue operations, medical aid, and system defense. They shared food, medical supplies, and technical assistance with species that had voted against Earth just 2 years earlier. "Why are you helping us?" asked the captain of an Altarian vessel that had been saved from certain destruction. "Because it's the right thing to do," Mi-Young replied simply. "We don't fight for revenge. We fight for everyone." The psychological impact was enormous. Species throughout the galaxy began to realize that humans weren't the aggressive monsters. The change started slowly, then became impossible to ignore. Species that had voted against Earth 2 years ago were now sending secret messages to human ships, begging for protection and alliance. Borahan sat in the captain's chair of the Earth diplomatic vessel New Dawn, reading the latest batch of requests. Unlike Yunwu, who had tried to convince the galaxy through careful diplomacy, Bora had a different approach. She had been a military intelligence officer before becoming a diplomat, and she understood power better than protocol. "How many today?" asked her aide. 47 new requests for formal alliance," Bora replied. 18 offers of technology sharing. 23 applications for protection treaties. And one rather desperate plea from the hegemony itself. The last one was the most interesting. The same species that controlled the Galaxy Council, the ones who had pushed hardest for the quarantine, were now asking Earth for help. What do they want? Their home system is next on the swarm's target list. They're offering us full council membership and a permanent seat on the ruling committee if we save them. Bora smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. Too little, too late. The truth was that Earth no longer needed or wanted traditional council membership. In the months since the swarm attacks began, humanity had built its own network of alliances that was more effective than anything the council had ever managed. Commander Wu Jin Park's liberation fleets were the key to this success. Unlike traditional military forces that conquered and left, human fleets stayed to help rebuild. They brought not just weapons, but engineers, doctors, teachers, and supplies. Commander Park to New Dawn came a transmission from the Vega sector. "Altarian system is secure. Beginning humanitarian operations now." Bora switched to the tactical display. She could see human ships throughout the Altarian system. Not just military vessels, but hospital ships, supply freighters, and construction platforms. The Altarians had been among the loudest voices calling for Earth's quarantine. Now they were completely dependent on human protection. "Casualties?" she asked. "Minimal. The swarm forces were destroyed before they could reach the populated worlds. We lost 2 fighters, both pilots recovered safely." "Excellent work, Commander." This was the pattern that had repeated across dozens of systems. Human forces would arrive just in time to stop swarm attacks, then stay to help with recovery. They asked for nothing in return, but the gratitude was enormous. So Young Kim coordinated the humanitarian efforts from her mobile command center. Her ships carried everything from medical supplies to construction equipment, from food to teachers who could help alien children understand what had happened to their worlds. "The psychological impact is incredible," she reported to Bora during their daily briefing. "Species that have never worked together are now cooperating because they see humans doing it naturally." Examples? The Verdans and the Metallics have been enemies for 300 years, fighting over mining rights. But yesterday I watched their engineers working side by side to repair a human-designed shield generator. They're too busy helping each other to remember why they were fighting. This was the real revolution. Human presence wasn't just stopping the swarm. It was changing how the galaxy worked. Species were learning to cooperate instead of compete, to share instead of hoard, to help instead of exploit. But the council leadership was terrified of this change. "Ambassador Han," came an urgent transmission. "This is Prime Regent Veltar. I need to speak with you immediately." Bora accepted the call. Veltar appeared on her screen, his tree-like form visibly shaking. Behind him she could see the chaos of the Council Emergency Center. "The swarm has broken through our defenses in the core sectors," he said without preamble. "They're moving toward the hegemony home system. 14 billion lives are at stake." "I'm aware of the situation," Bora replied calmly. "We need human assistance. We're prepared to offer you anything." Full council membership, technology transfers, territory, anything you want. Anything we want? Yes, just please help us. Bora pretended to consider this. In reality, human fleets were already moving toward the threatened system. Earth would never let 14 billion innocent people die, regardless of politics. I'll need to discuss this with Earth Command, she said. But I should warn you, our terms have changed significantly since your last offer. Whatever you want. Full human authority over all military operations in the affected sectors. Direct human oversight of refugee operations. And immediate suspension of the quarantine orders for all human vessels and personnel. Veltar didn't hesitate. Agreed. All of it. I'll be in touch. Bora ended the transmission and immediately contacted Admiral Inho. Admiral, you heard? Every word. Our fleets are already en route. But Ambassador, there's something you need to know about the core sectors. What? We're not the only ones moving to help. The species we've assisted are sending their own ships. The Altarians, the Verdans, even some of the smaller colonies. They're volunteering to help defend the hegemony. This was unexpected. Traditional galaxy politics was based on every species looking out for themselves. But human influence was changing that pattern. How many? Over 300 ships from 17 different species. And they're all following human tactical doctrine. Bora was amazed. In less than a year, Earth had built a military alliance that was larger and more effective than anything the Council had managed in centuries. The defense of the hegemony home system began 3 days later. It was the largest space battle in galactic history. Admiral Inho commanded the human fleet from the bridge of the new flagship Indomitable. Around him, the massive vessel hummed with power from engines that the galaxy's best scientists insisted were impossible. Fleet status? He asked. All human vessels ready, Admiral. Plus allied ships from the Altarian Defense Force, Verdan Space Guard, and 12 other species. Total force, 437 vessels. Enemy contact. Swarm forces detected at the edge of the system. Estimated count over 2,000 vessels. The odds were terrible, but Inho wasn't worried. The swarm had never faced coordinated resistance from multiple species using human tactical doctrine. All ships. This is Admiral Kang. Today we're not fighting for Earth, or for the Council, or for any single species. We're fighting for the principle that civilized beings protect each other. Begin the attack. The battle that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Human ships used their quantum-fold drives to appear throughout the swarm formation, striking at key targets before disappearing again. Allied ships, following human coordination, focused their fire on targets that human vessels had already weakened. But the most remarkable thing wasn't the tactics, it was the cooperation. Altarian crystal ships provided shield support for Verdan biovessels. Metallic engineering drones repaired human fighters mid-battle. Species that had been enemies for generations worked together like they had been allies for decades. Swarm command vessel identified, reported the tactical officer. It's the largest construct we've ever seen. Inho studied the massive enemy ship. It was more like a mobile space station, easily 10 times larger than the biggest human vessel. Launch Ghost Squadron. All fighters target the command ship's control nodes. Mi Young led 48 fighters in a desperate attack run through the heart of the enemy formation. Swarm vessels fired everything they had, but the tiny human ships were too fast and too unpredictable to hit consistently. Ghost Leader to all units. Quantum disruptors charged and ready. Remember, we only get one shot at this. The fighters struck simultaneously, their weapons tearing through the command ship's defenses. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the massive vessel simply stopped moving. It's working, called one of the pilots. The smaller ships are losing coordination. Without central control, the swarm vessels began attacking each other as much as the defending forces. Within hours, the massive enemy fleet was destroyed or scattered. When the battle ended, the communication channels were filled with celebration from dozens of species. But underneath the joy was a new realization. The galaxy had fundamentally changed. Admiral, his communications officer, reported, "We're receiving surrender offers from the remaining swarm forces throughout the galaxy. They're requesting terms. Since when do ancient machine intelligences request terms?" Inho wondered. The answer came from an unexpected source. Dayun Park, now director of Earth's Xenological Research Division, appeared on the communication screen. "Admiral, we've been studying swarm behavior patterns. They're not just mindless machines. They're adaptive intelligences that respond to superior force. When they encounter resistance they can't overcome, they switch to negotiation mode. Can we trust them? As much as we can trust any intelligence, biological or artificial. They'll honor agreements as long as we maintain the capability to enforce them. Inho nodded. This was exactly the kind of problem Earth was designed to handle. As the fleets began returning to their home systems, Bora received one final transmission from the Council. Ambassador Han, said Veltar, on behalf of the Galaxy Council, I want to formally apologize for our treatment of humanity. We were wrong about your species. Yes, Bora agreed simply. You were. What happens now? Bora looked out at the stars. The final battle against the Void Swarm would not be fought with ships or weapons. It would be fought with mathematics and the brilliant mind of a 25-year-old human named Giwu Choi. Jiwoo stood before the holographic display in Earth's newest command center, built inside what had once been the Galaxy Council's own headquarters. The irony wasn't lost on anyone present. Humans now commanded the galaxy from the same building where they had been rejected and quarantined just 3 years ago. Show me the quantum substrate analysis again, he said to his team. The display changed to show the underlying structure of space itself, the invisible framework that allowed faster than light travel and communication. It was beautiful and terrifying, a web of energy that connected every star system in the galaxy. The swarm isn't just using our space, Giwu explained to the assembled commanders. They're connected to it through quantum entanglement with their home dimension. As long as that connection exists, destroying their ships here is useless. They'll just send more. Admiral Inho studied the display. So we need to cut the connection? More than that, we need to collapse the specific quantum frequencies they're using, make it impossible for them to maintain coherence across dimensional boundaries. Captain Hai-Jin Lee, commander of Earth's flagship Indomitable, leaned forward. What do you need? Every quantum disruptor we have, all firing simultaneously at precisely calculated coordinates throughout the galaxy. The timing has to be perfect. If even one shot is late by a microsecond, the whole plan fails. It was an impossible task by traditional standards. Coordinating weapons fire across thousands of light years with microsecond precision required communication technology that most species insisted couldn't exist. But humans had built exactly that technology during their quarantine. The neural web can handle the coordination, Dayan reported from her station. Every human ship and station is connected through quantum entanglement. We can synchronize the attack perfectly. Seok-Jin Yoon, Earth's new chief diplomat, watched the preparations with mixed feelings. He had spent his career believing that problems should be solved through negotiation and compromise. But sometimes, he had learned, the only way to make peace was to be strong enough that no one dared disturb it. What about casualties? He asked. Minimal, Giwu replied. The quantum collapse will only affect the swarm's interdimensional connection. Normal space will be undisturbed. And after? What happens to the swarm forces already in our dimension? They'll be cut off from their home base. We can negotiate with them then, from a position of absolute strength. The plan was approved within hours. Human fleets, now openly operating throughout the galaxy, moved to their assigned positions. Each ship carried quantum disruptors that had been modified according to Giwu's specifications. But the most remarkable thing about the operation wasn't the technology. It was the cooperation. Alien species that had once viewed humans with suspicion now volunteered their ships and crews to support the mission. The Altarians provided crystal matrix computers to enhance targeting accuracy. The Verdans offered their biological sensors to detect quantum fluctuations. Even the mechanical cognites shared their processing power to help with the calculations. All fleets report ready, announced the communications officer aboard the Indomitable. Ijin looked around her bridge. Her crew was mostly human, but she also had Altarian tactical specialists, Verdan sensor operators, and a Zentuarian engineer who had insisted on helping with the weapon modifications. This is it, she said quietly. Today we end a war that's been going on for millions of years. The countdown began. Across the galaxy, over 1,000 ships prepared to fire simultaneously. 10 seconds, Giwu announced. All ships confirm ready status. Green lights appeared on the tactical display as each fleet reported their readiness. 5 seconds. Quantum disruptors charged. 3, 2, 1, fire. The weapons fired in perfect synchronization. Quantum disruptor beams invisible to normal sensors reached out across space at the speed of light. They converged on specific points throughout the galaxy where the quantum substrate was thinnest, where the barriers between dimensions could be disrupted. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then space itself seemed to shiver. Every swarm vessel in the galaxy suddenly stopped moving. The massive constructs that had been attacking the outer rim system simply went dark. The smaller ships that had been patrolling conquered territories fell silent. Quantum substrate analysis shows complete dimensional separation, reported the science officer. The swarm's connection to their home dimension has been severed. Across the galaxy, communication channels erupted in celebration. Species that had faced extinction just hours before were suddenly safe. The ancient threat that had consumed entire civilizations was finally defeated, but Giwu wasn't celebrating yet. "Signal the swarm command vessel," he ordered. A few minutes later, a new voice appeared on the communication channel. It was mechanical but somehow more sophisticated than the simple transmissions they had received before. "We acknowledge defeat," the swarm intelligence said. "You have severed our connection to the source. We are trapped in your dimension." "Not trapped," Seokjin corrected, taking over the negotiation. "Invited to stay under certain conditions." "Explain." "You can remain in this dimension as independent intelligences. You can build, explore, and grow. But you cannot consume inhabited systems. You cannot attack civilized species. And you must contribute to the galactic community." There was a long pause. "This is acceptable. We had not considered coexistence as a possibility. Most people don't, until someone shows them how." The agreement was signed within days. The swarm would be allowed to settle in uninhabited systems in the galactic rim, where they could build their constructs without threatening anyone. In return, they would share their advanced construction techniques and help with major engineering projects. It was a typically human solution, turning enemies into allies through understanding and mutual benefit. The political aftermath was swift and decisive. The Galaxy Council hereby dissolves itself, announced Prime Regent Veltar in his final official statement. "We recognize that our leadership has failed the galaxy. Effective immediately, all council authority is transferred to the Terran hegemony." Seokjin accepted the transfer of power with typical human practicality. "Earth doesn't want to rule the galaxy," he explained to the assembled representatives. "We want to help the galaxy rule itself better." The new system was elegant in its simplicity. Earth would handle military coordination and crisis response. Individual species would maintain their own governments and cultural autonomy. Major decisions would be made by consensus among all species, with Earth serving as mediator when needed. But there were consequences for those who had opposed Earth from the beginning. Species that voted against Earth's original membership will be placed under protective oversight, Seokjin announced. "Not as punishment, but as protection. You've proven that you make poor decisions when left to your own devices." The oversight was gentle but firm. Human advisors would help these species improve their military capabilities, economic systems, and diplomatic relations. It was not conquest. It was education. Species that had abstained from the original vote were granted junior partnership status. They could participate in galactic governance, but couldn't lead major initiatives until they proved their commitment to cooperation. The few species that had supported Earth from the beginning were granted full equality in the new Terran hegemony. They became Earth's closest allies and most trusted partners. "You know," Hyun-woo said to Seokjin as they watched the ceremony installing Earth's flag above the former council chambers, 3 years ago, I thought we just wanted their acceptance." "We never needed their acceptance," Seokjin replied. "We needed them to accept that they needed us." Across the galaxy, the changes were immediate and dramatic. Trade routes that had been plagued by pirates for centuries became safe overnight. Border disputes that had simmered for generations were resolved through human mediation. Scientific research that had been hoarded by individual species was now shared freely. The most remarkable change was in the attitudes of ordinary people throughout the galaxy. Children of different species played together on space stations. Scholars collaborated on projects that spanned multiple worlds. Artists created works that celebrated the diversity of galactic civilization. "We're not just ruling the galaxy," observed Da-un during a staff meeting. "We're teaching it how to be better than it was." "Good," said Admiral In-ho. "That's what we should be doing." 5 years later, As Giwu stood in the same command center where he had planned the final assault on the swarm, he reflected on how much had changed. The holographic display now showed a galaxy at peace, with human ships patrolling trade routes that connected thousands of worlds in friendship rather than fear. A young alien intern approached him with a data pad. "Sir, we're receiving an interesting signal from the Andromeda Galaxy. It looks like..." "A request for help," Iwu smiled. "Alert Earth Command. It sounds like we have work to do." The galaxy had voted against Earth, thinking they were preventing human expansion. Instead, they had forced humanity to become exactly what the galaxy needed. Not conquerors, but protectors.